It is the Fix California Hour on the John Phillips Show. Johnny is on vacation, so it's Randy Wang here, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and search for the John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. Our next guest is the Councilwoman for District 11 in Los Angeles, covering the West Side and Venice and, of course, the Palisades. Traci Park, welcome back to the John Phillips Show.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm doing great. Councilwoman Park, I can't believe it, but tomorrow is already going to be 4 months since the devastating fires that destroyed the Palisades and Altadena. How is rebuilding looking right now, and are you satisfied with the progress?
It's a mixed bag. I will say that the speed of recovery and debris removal is happening at warp pace. This is unprecedented, the speed at which we're moving. The Army Corps has now completed clearing well over 1,500 lots in the Palisades. At this rate, they are going to be done this summer with debris clearing. That is fantastic news. We have already broken ground and are in the reconstruction process on multiple properties. That's all great news. The restoration of water and power to the area moved very, very quickly, but there continue to remain major challenges on and around PCH. The traffic management continues to be a challenge, and I think the vast majority of displaced residents remained mired in uncertainty about insurance, mortgage relief, and timelines for rebuilding. But I am hopeful that as those answers to those questions emerge, we are going to start to see the floodgates open and the Palisades rebuild happen very, very quickly.
At this point, is the city doing everything it can to speed up the permitting process for rebuilding?
So we are, but I want to be clear, we have not perfected the system yet. One of the challenges we are still struggling with, of course, is the need to waive the permit fees. I introduced legislation to accomplish this all the way back in January. We are expecting an ordinance back, but in the meantime, Mayor Bass has issued an executive order that directs the departments to stop collecting those fees. So that's going to be a huge help. Most of the permit applications that we have seen so far fall outside of the expedited process.
We're talking with LA City Councilwoman Traci Park. Her website is tracipark.com, TRACI Park.com. Councilwoman Park, last week you held a press conference with several members of the LAPD because of the mayor's proposed budget with the almost $1 billion budget shortfall. Part of what was proposed to balance that budget was over 400 potential layoffs with the civilians that work at the LAPD, people working at the crime labs. Can you explain to the audience how devastating those cuts would be if they're finalized?
Sure. Well, public safety in Los Angeles should not be negotiable, and balancing this budget should not come at the expense of public safety in our city. These 400 positions include 911 systems technicians, forensic scientists who work in our labs, crime scene photographers who capture and document some of the most horrific crime scenes you can imagine. These are the people who run the operations at LAPD, and without them, cases will remain unaddressed and unsolved. Cops will be pulled off of the streets to cover the work, and criminals will remain free on our streets. And so we cannot balance this budget on the backs of public safety in LA.
I know that cuts have to be made somewhere, but when the initial proposal came out and you saw things like those cuts to street services, cuts that could close domestic violence shelters and cuts that could close animal shelters, I just think that with a $13 billion budget for the city, there has to be other places that would make a little more sense where there's more bloat.
Absolutely. And when you look at the amount of price gouging and bloat that we have in the city budget, the number of redundancies and inefficiencies, there is plenty of room to focus on core basic services. And these cuts to parking enforcement and tree trimming and street lighting all impact safety and livability in Los Angeles. A great place to start would be the city of LA's homeless budget. We have spent $1 billion a year, year after year, doubled down year after year, and gotten nowhere. And currently with LAHSA in a free-for-all and the county pulling out, I am choosing to view this as an historic opportunity to rein back the taxpayer spending, the boondoggle that this has been for the last 2 decades, and demand more local control and accountability.
It's fascinating because you look at how much money we're spending every single year. That would completely balance the budget. And currently, the money that's being spent, we don't have a way to even track where it has been spent efficiently. I mean, you have Judge Carter going after LAHSA for not being able to actually show where any of the money has gone for years now.
Exactly. All of these problems are known, have been known, and it shouldn't take a crisis like this for us to be in the position of having to finally call an end to this madness that has been the homeless spending system in Los Angeles. I am calling for a moratorium on any further spending on LAHSA beyond what we need to maintain the minimum status quo until we have an alternative system in place that restores that accountability and that oversight. But we also need to use this as an opportunity to invest in programs that work. For years, we have been investing taxpayer money in programs that enable people to remain living on the streets instead of forcing the issue with mental health and addiction. And frankly, we are not going to solve the problem until we confront those 2 issues head on.
It's kind of fascinating because, you know, we cover Southern California and Northern California here. And while Los Angeles seems to keep wanting to double down on housing first and harm reduction policies, places like the Bay Area are looking for recovery housing, which currently is illegal with state law, which doesn't make any sense. And the whole idea of trying to get people out of the addictions that brought them to homelessness is something that we don't even want to touch.
And I have been following very, very closely the trends out of San Francisco and the Bay Area. They have been consistently a couple of clicks ahead of the city of Los Angeles in changing the policies and approaches. And look, it's working. San Francisco is really, really turning the tide on these issues. And it is because they are shifting to a recovery-first approach, and they are doing away with ineffective policies that don't require participation by the people who are receiving the services. If we take someone that is suffering from serious mental health and addiction issues and put them in an apartment but don't require them to get the care and the treatment they need, we are not solving the problem. And that is why we consistently see a return to homelessness. And, you know, I have done an incredible job over the last 2 years doing encampment interventions and getting people on the streets into interim and into supportive housing. But we are at a point now where we are dealing with a population of individuals who need medical care, who need a legal intervention on their behalf because they are not well enough to make good decisions on their own behalf. We also need to enable and empower our police to enforce the laws that we have. And until we have a combination of all of those solutions working together, this problem isn't going to get better. And when you look at the budget, every single department in the city of Los Angeles also has funds allocated to homelessness beyond the $1 billion that we already put into the bottomless pit of homelessness. Rec and parks, our libraries, LA Sanitation, the police department, the fire department, every city department is contributing its dollars and resources to homelessness. This cannot go on like this.
We're speaking with LA City Councilwoman Traci Park of District 11, her website, tracipark.com. You know, I've been trying to watch some of the budget hearings. I mean, it's 5 hours a day, every single day for a week, so I can't catch all of it. But one moment that I found quite fascinating was your colleague Bob Blumenfeld asking why the city was allocating $6 million for an Olympics project that would redo all of the lights and wiring on the 6th Street Bridge because all the copper wire was stolen on the 6th Street Bridge. And your councilwoman colleague, he said, are we sure we want to do this now? Because they'll just rip it all off again before the Olympics.
And, you know, that is the quandary that we're in. And as we evaluate infrastructure upgrades and adding technology resources to our public infrastructure, as we prepare our city for major events, the World Cup is coming next year. The Olympics will be here. The Super Bowl will be here the year after that. And then the Olympics. We fix things, and then thieves and vandals and homeless people pick it apart again. There's a reason we can't have nice things. It's because nobody wants to deal with the actual problem on the ground, which is that we need to get drug addicts and mental patients and criminals and dangerous, unstable people off the streets, period. We're not going to be ready for any world events. We can't protect our communities from fires or crime. Our infrastructure is failing. Look at our sidewalks everywhere around the city. We have got to get back to basics. We have got to demand accountability on the homelessness front, or we are never going to be ready for these world events.
Now, Councilwoman Park, about a year ago, you, with another member of the council, formed a task force to deal with things like copper wire theft. What has that task force found in the last year?
So they recover stolen metals and wires all the time, often being stored in these RVs on the side of the road. The task force has been, somewhat effective, but there's more that needs to be done. The infrastructure itself needs to be better protected, and in some cases that may mean moving away from the types of wired systems that we've used in the past. But we also need to hold the criminals accountable and have a no tolerance policy when it comes to people who are picking apart our electrical wiring. That controls traffic control lights at intersections. It controls our street lights in our neighborhoods. If you drive up and down the 405 freeway or the 10 freeway or across the 6th Street Bridge, there's no lights anywhere. And so we can create task forces. We can, offer rewards for these materials, and we do, and we consistently get results with it. But the problem is bigger than what we can address on the law enforcement end, because the problem has gotten so widespread. We have allowed and tolerated a culture where criminals have been allowed to get away with this, to the point that rolling back this problem or any of the other multitude of quality of life issues that we have in LA is going to be a huge challenge.
Well, and it's fascinating to me for this specific type of theft, because unlike when you're stealing from a storefront, you may go sell that at MacArthur Park or what have you. But in order to sell the copper wire, you've got to sell it to recyclers and to smelters. What is the city doing to go after the people purchasing the stolen copper?
So the city attorney's office has issued letters to those businesses and organizations, letting them know about the criminal penalties and other obligations that they have. LAPD, obviously, the task force keeps eyes on that, and they'll go after the resellers as well. But it is not just the copper wire. I am very, very worried, for example, about in the Palisades, as we move into our rebuilding phase, our ability to protect building materials, construction materials, heavy equipment. This problem of theft is rampant across the city, and it isn't just public infrastructure. It's bikes, it's people's homes. The burglaries that we've seen in Altadena up 450%. Criminals are not worried about it. And unless and until we empower the police to arrest and make a display of this, and I do trust how seriously our DA takes these issues, but unless and until we empower our police here locally to go after these folks and make ourselves clear that we are not playing around when it comes to crime and public safety, I fear it will continue to happen.
Last question before you go. I want to get your take on what happened in Hollywood last week, where there was a vacant home that was taken over by squatters months ago. Neighbors complained relentlessly about illegal drug use, prostitution, fires. It was reported on all the local stations. The councilman for that district, Hugo Soto Martinez, sent a letter saying, well, we're going to have a meeting with the Office of Building and Safety in a month, and maybe we can declare it a nuisance, and then maybe we can do something about it. And 2 days later, the house burned to the ground. Is that really all the city can do when you have a lot of illegal activity being taken over by a vacant building like that?
Well, there is more that can be done, and there is more that should be done. I will tell you this problem of illegal trespassing and squatting is rampant all over the city, including in my district on the west side. This is vacant homes, vacant commercial buildings, often construction sites. And the drug use, prostitution, and fires are common occurrences. The city's nuisance abatement procedures are complicated and bureaucratic. The notice process that is required to evict illegal squatters before police can go in and clear the building is a problem. I have already introduced legislation to revise those procedures so that when someone is engaging in the illegal criminal act of trespassing or vandalizing or choose your crime to be on property they don't belong on, the police need to have the ability to go in and remove those people immediately and to keep them out. And so we as the city have a process where we have to work with the building owners, some of whom are cooperative, others of whom are not and may not even be responsive. And what it takes for the city to go onto that property and abate the process, the problem is a process that is ridiculously long and complicated. And in the meantime, the fire department is being strained beyond the brink, having to respond to this when it's fires and overdoses. The police are put in the situation of having to deal with these crimes, and they're overwhelmed by it. And the criminals, frankly, think they can get away with it because it has been so long since the city's done a damn thing to enforce laws and let these folks know they cannot just get away with breaking the law. But they've done it every day for years.
Traci Park, thank you so much for everything you're doing. You are such a voice of common sense on that council, and we need you there for many years to come. Traci Park, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks. We'll talk soon.
That's Councilwoman Traci Park, the website, tracipark.com. She is running for re-election in 2026. Thanks so much to Traci Park for calling in. That was last minute, too, and she does not disappoint. Problem is there's only one of her, and the other 14, well, some of them are okay, but there are quite a few on that city council that are fascinating. Hey, you want to react to what you just heard from Traci Park? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, 800-222-KABC is the phone number. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. A lot of people sent emails when we took calls on high-speed rail. I'm going to read those in just a little bit. I got a lot going on, and I'm taking the calls, and usually I'm the one that can remind someone, hey, we got emails, but I'm doing it all solo today. But don't worry. If you sent an email on high-speed rail, we're going to read it. But let's get to everyone that's on hold right now at 800-222-5222. Let's start with Adam in the Rockies. Adam, hello.
Hey, Randy. How you doing, buddy? Hey, good job on the show today. Great interview with Traci Park. That was pretty good, dude. Anyway, real quick, yeah, John Phillips, he's gambling on a boat, so you got to do a boat sound and a casino pull, and then like because you didn't hit it. But anyways, Karen Bass has taken a cut of her pay. How about the other the other officials, nobody with that, nobody's even sending anything or, that really ghetto trash girl that's on there. Like, she's not saying anything about that. So, I mean, I haven't heard anything about that. Have you?
I have not. And the thing is, Karen Bass was asked at an event by someone if she would take a pay cut, and she said yes. Then she was asked how much, and she did not answer. So even though she said she will, we don't know if she actually will. But nobody else is talking about this. But the mayor makes $300,000 a year. That's too high. Members of the city council, even the ones I like, are making $220,000 a year. You could definitely cut some there. Some of their top staffers are making $200,000 a year. You look at the LADWP when Karen Bass appointed Janice Quinones, who couldn't explain why the reservoir wasn't full. The salary for that job went from $375K to she makes $750,000 a year. Now, that's not the city of LA's budget, but that directly impacts how much I'm paying for my power bill. How does that make any sense?
That is just it's so obviously corrupt. Gosh, I just feel so bad for you guys. I left California about 5-6 years ago, and I'm out here in Colorado, up in the mountains. We got about 4 inches of snow right now. It's still coming down, but I'd rather deal with that than just getting bent over on just the insufferency. I don't even know how to explain it, but just these guys are just taking us all for everything we have.
Well, it's so fascinating, right? The state of California, whether you're in Southern California or in the Bay Area, you have some of the best natural resources, not just in this country, in the world. You have the best climate in parts of the entire world. You have such incredible geography. Any direction you go, if you go an hour, you've got beaches, you've got mountains, you've got everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
We can grow anything here. But people are leaving not because of any of the things that the state just does. It's because of the people who run the state, and they're running people like you, unfortunately, out of the state, which means all the money that you make for the next however many years you live in Colorado, California doesn't get any of that because they lost you, and they're losing people every single day. I'm born and raised in this state, and I am actively every day having daydreams about moving to New Mexico because I don't know how much longer I can take it.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, think about it, man. Don't give it a second thought. Really think about it. A lot of us have moved out of California, so you're not the only one, sir. Hey, great job. Hey, I listen to you guys every day, and I'm in a manufacturing job in up here in Colorado. We make LED signs for freeways, and we send them all across the country. So. I listen to you guys on my earphones all day, so great job. Thank you.
We're so glad to have you. Now, do you listen on the stream or do you listen on the 810 signal?
I listen through the iHeart stream, and when I got some guy grinding next to me, I'm like, 2 earbuds are in right now, and I'm listening to you guys.
Well, we're so glad to have you. Call us anytime, Adam. Really appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Yes, we are streaming live, whether it's KABC 790 in Los Angeles or 810 KSFO in the Bay Area. We're on our websites, KABC.com and KSFO.com. We're also on the iHeart app, and you can stream live on there. We also post all our podcasts there. I'll be posting the podcast of that Traci Park interview in just a few minutes. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Let's go to Jimmy in Whittier, where the girls are prettier. Jimmy, hello.
Hey, Randy. I just came back from New York, and this is regards to the bullet train from going from somewhere to nowhere. Anyways, I was in New York for 4 days. It's amazing how efficient their subways actually work. I did a little research, and they were started in 1900. The first leg was built in 4 years, 9 miles. The subways were completed in 8 years. This is all underground. And I want some maybe audience response. How was New York able to do this in 1900? And we have this bullet train that's been they've been working on this for 15 years, and it's gone from nowhere to nowhere. That's my first comment.
Well, and I'll tell you this. Let me tell you this first, Jimmy. What I'll tell you is part of the reason that things could be built like that then in places like New York. Now, New York has geography that really works for something like a subway. But even just when you talk about timelines, California has been handicapped from building anything efficiently since the Environmental Quality Act. And even though Gavin Newsom loves to say he's done 50 CEQA reforms, he won't kill CEQA, and CEQA can be used to sue over and over and over again for any reason, for anything. And it slows down building of all kinds, and the state is married to it because it's supposed to be good for the environment, but it's really just an excuse to delay and make things cost even more. Okay, what was the second thing you wanted to talk about?
And I agree with what you're saying. My second comment is I know Newsom, who taking a lot of heat and deserves the heat, but didn't Moonbeam start this project?
Well, interestingly enough, it was voted on when Arnold Schwarzenegger was in office.
Okay.
And the High-Speed Rail Authority was actually was created back in the 90s. So everyone's got a little hand in this. But yes, the construction started under Jerry Brown, and Gavin Newsom continued it. And one caller did point out, when Gavin Newsom first got elected in 2019, he said, oh, yeah, maybe we need to rethink this. This might not be a good waste of money, but the special interests that control all the money going to that project were more powerful than he was. So he quickly switched sides, and now he's the one talking about what a great success this thing is.
Okay, Randy. Well, thank you for the update.
Well, thanks so much for the call, Jimmy. Appreciate it. I was just out in Whittier the other day. It's beautiful out there. Let's go to Alice in Alameda. Alice, hello.
Hello. Yeah, you're doing a great job. Right or wrong, when I drive the city, and it's my hometown, I was born here, when I unexpectedly hit a real deep pothole, and it almost breaks my axle. Well, I pull over, and I happen to have had a store of flagstone in the back of my car for a project. I take a piece of flagstone, and I put it in that pothole to where it's maybe an inch above the level of the ground. And right or wrong, it's not going to hurt anybody else's axle. So I just want to let people know they have a recourse if there's a pothole in their street, and they have to drive over that, endangering their axle and whatever, their car. So that's really what I want to say. I don't know if it's illegal, but I'll tell you one thing. It's illegal to ignore them the way they have been. So who's at fault?
Well, that's the thing. You have such slow response to fixing things. There's such huge dangers on the road like that. I applaud you for taking it into your own hands. But it's funny how, while it's so slow to fix something like that, sometimes the city will go after you if you're the one trying to fix it. Like, for instance, about a year ago in the Hollywood Hills, there was this open trench right in front of Arnold Schwarzenegger's house, and people kept hitting it like potholes. And Schwarzenegger was dealing with the city, and you think he would have a little pull because he's the former governor of the state, and the city would do nothing about it. So he filled in the damn thing himself, and then Karen Bass is going after him for that.
Well, right or wrong, I think is our city worth fighting for? That's the underlying. It's my hometown. It's worth fighting for. So I'm going to stay and fight for it. So let them pick me up. Let them put me in jail. I mean, I'll serve the time, but I'm going to continue. If I have to, I'll continue filling potholes, and I welcome anybody else with me. Join the gang. I guess you can call me a gang member.
Well, Alice, keep doing what you're doing, because obviously the city and the county are not. So thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to Bill in La Cañada. Bill, hello.
Hey, Randy, I think law enforcement is the key to everything Traci Park was talking about. The city council and the county supervisors have demonstrated that they cannot solve the homelessness issues. And in fact, think about it. If you or I or anybody else started soliciting money for somebody who was not even a doctor, namely Babs Ferrer, and said, oh, yeah, well, she's got this program, see, that supplies methamphetamine pipes and heroin needles to drug addicts, and it's going to solve the problem. You know that the district attorney would charge you or me or anybody else with medical fraud, practicing medicine without a license, likely to cause bodily harm and death, which has happened. And we'd also be charged under Penal Code 273AA, which is knowingly endangering children by having these needles discarded in the parks where they can encounter HIV, hepatitis, and tetanus by stepping on them. And then the U.S. attorney would probably target us for racketeering and conspiracy to violate federal and state narcotics laws, and probably money laundering to get these funds to these scam nonprofits. So these county and local officials are wrong in thinking that they can just create legislation that transcends the law. It does not. So we need help from law enforcement to put these, in my opinion, these people, Ulysses Hernandez, Barbara Ferrer, these people are racketeering conspiracists because they're trying to get people to break the law, and they're hurting people in the process. They're a danger to the public. Let's have some action from the U.S. Attorney, Bill Asaley, and this Nathan Hochman, who has yet to prove his cojones. I'm still waiting for him to do that. Get these guys on your show and ask them about this.
Well, this is what's interesting, and this is what I would love to ask Asaley, is specifically with things like Ferrer's program, where she gives money to Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles, the nonprofit that passes out meth pipes and needles. Federal Drug Paraphernalia Act is a thing. It is against the law to sell or distribute drug paraphernalia. It's a federal law. So can we, with the federal government, go after Barbara Ferrer for indirectly giving people meth pipes?
Lock her up. That's against the law. You and I, again, if you and I advocated that or raised money for it, the neighbors would say, hey, this guy's in a drug racketeering conspiracy. Lock him up, and they'd come in and do it.
Now, if Barbara Ferrer gets sent to prison, Bill, do you think that she's going to take over that place? She going to go out? She going to beat someone up on the first day and run that joint?
No, because I think she's going to wear a mask the whole time, and they won't know who she is.
Thanks so much for the call, Bill. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. A lot of people emailed us about the high-speed rail. We're going to read some of those emails next. Johnny's on vacation. It's Randy Wang here. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at johnny.likeshow@gmail.com. A lot of people wrote in about the high-speed rail. Al from L.A. writes in. It says, by 2033, high-speed rail will be so obsolete that trains will be able to fly, and we'll call them airplanes. Will writes in and says, just like the Lib train to nowhere is on permanent delay, Newsom's brain is way past its expiration day of usefulness. Christopher writes in and says, hey, I've got the perfect plan. There's a band in the train project. Turn it into a dirt road. Audubon. Yeehaw. Spencer writes in and says, this terrible train timeline, tantalizing, teasing, timely completion only highlights the hilarity happening haphazardly in the Central Valley. Gavin Newsom needs to take accountability. That's amazing. We need to mimic what's happening across the globe. Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks. That was amazing.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
Oh, this audience. You never disappoint. Let's go to Joe in Kentucky. Joe, hello.
How you doing?
Doing great.
I called you guys back in November. I forget what the topic was, and told Johnny that, we're giving up. We're moving Lexington to Kentucky. So I thought I'd give an update as I stand here under blue skies, puffy white clouds, low 70s. We bought a new house here for 1/3 what we sold our house in California for. Sales tax is one third lower. Property taxes are about the same because of Prop 13. Utilities cost 25 to 50% of what they did in L.A. Car insurance, house insurance, 50%. And you talk about natural beauty. Yeah, we don't have the mountains and all the other stuff, but I got green all around me in a forest in my backyard. And I love listening to you guys just as comedy, laughing at what we left behind and going, it's too bad we couldn't have done it sooner.
You know, it's fascinating. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, and, you know, you always hear stereotypes of what the South looks like just from, you know, people that live here and never been there. Every time I go to the South, whether it's to Texas or whether it's to Alabama, boy, it is so green in some of those places that it makes California look brown.
We have water, and we have electricity, and we have natural gas. And when I went to the gas station last month with my Kroger discount, I paid $1.59 a gallon.
Holy cow! It's about $5 right now and rising in California. I think you made the right decision, Joe.
Oh, I couldn't be happier. But I still enjoy listening to you because it gives me a good chuckle every day.
Well, that's the most important thing. It's okay if you leave the state, but make sure you still listen to us. Joe, thank you so much for the call, buddy.
Oh, definitely. Take care, guys.
If you are leaving the state of California, make sure you get that iHeart app or get the KABC app for those Los Angeles listeners or the KSFO app for you Bay Area listeners, because you don't want to miss out on the insanity while you enjoy your state that's not crazy. Because I guarantee the stuff that's being talked about in Kentucky is not nearly as interesting as what's being talked about here. Let's go to Rose in Marina Del Rey. Rose, hello.
Hey, Randy, I got a couple of things. Traci Park is my council person, and honestly, she's living in the real world, but unfortunately, we're all not, in a way. You know, she's not either. We're living in the crazy world of L.A., and when you listen to her, she speaks the way it should be. And unfortunately, every day is another battle for her. And I see it all the time. I've been through Bonin, and now, thank God, we have Traci. But for her, I wouldn't have lived in L.A. any longer, to be honest with you, because I've been here forever, and it is circling the drain.
She is truly a shining ray that there can be good governance in Los Angeles, and I hope she has a long, incredible career. We're out of time. Thanks so much for the call, Rose. Appreciate it. We got one more hour to go. It's the John Phillips Show. That rhymed, too. I'm sorry.